Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy, and I am really delighted that you're here today. We're going to take a look at the coming week. So, August, what is that, 27th until, sorry, I'm trying to get out of this month already. July 27th to July 31st. Sorry about the dogs. They have something to say. Okay, so that's what we're going to take a look at today. I want to see how this week is unfolding. Just before I get there, just a couple of little things, okay? First of all, there's been a lot of chitter chatter lately about, Trump's not going to leave the office. He's not going to accept the results of the election. Oh my. Listen, it's a distraction, okay? He's already setting up the narrative in case he loses that he can say, hey, listen, you know what? It was rigged. It was a hoax, right? Just let it drift by. Don't latch on to this stuff because it makes it, frankly, that much harder for you guys to maintain a focused and positive outlook of that big brush or the big broom sweeping out the White House, okay? And the other thing is there's a lot of, this is the thing about news, all right? They try very hard, unless you're sort of Fox, to try to present kind of this balanced narrative. And so one of the ways that they have to balance the narrative is by saying things like, well, this is how Trump could win, or this is where he's doing okay. And there's not a good reason for you guys to get sort of wigged out about that. Okay, just let it be. I know that there are some out there who are saying that by some miracle, he's going to be able to pull off another win. I am not one of those people who happens to believe that based on my energy readings, based on the cards, based on my intuitive insight. The country is in such bad shape, and I really don't see that people are going to, magically forget about that if a million or 2 million come off the unemployment rolls. I just don't see how that's going to reverse things. I don't see how it's going to reverse things if, the United States manages to, test another 15 million people. He has made such a disaster of everything. He is not going to be able to recover. And that's really, really what, you want to stay focused on. You want to stay focused on bringing in new energy, new blood, new ideas into the White House. And don't focus on things that are going to redirect your energy, because that is just another version of following the shiny red ball, right? So just keep that in mind. It's hard to do, you know what? And the scarier it gets, the more important it feels like he has to get gone. But the more you focus on all the ways he could not get gone, kind of energetically creates a bit of a mixed message or an imbalance, okay? So let's take a look now at August. Oh, my goodness, I really just don't want to be in July anymore, do I? Okay, July 27th to July 31st for Donald Trump, his administration. Let's take a peek and see what the upcoming week looks like. Come on down. I've got a question. Okay. Oop. I guess that's how that wanted to cut. Here we go. This week, Trump, White House. This week, Trump, White House. This week, Trump, White House. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we've got the High Priestess showing up here. Chariot, the Sun, oops, and the Five of Cups. Okay, I'll go through all of these. They're sort of telling a bit of a story here. So, shall we begin? You can anticipate. Okay, so this is the thing about Trump. At this point, he is so immersed in his own head, his own feelings. Now, they've managed to rein him in enough, I guess, scare him enough, so that, oh yeah, now he's saying people should wear masks, and now he's doing these little coronavirus press dealies every day, where he actually is managing to stay sort of on script from what I can figure out. Now, however, of course, you can tell that because he's speaking in a monotone, he's not looking around, and he's not engaging with anybody. So this is another one of those, Trump being held hostage kind of situations where he is literally forced to kind of comply, whether he wants to or not. And so what you're seeing is you're going to continue to see this sort of two sides of the same coin coming out of him. And understand, like, he's figured it out that he's in trouble. And so that makes him just a wee little bit more volatile. So while he may be able to get through a few more of these press conference things without exploding, I would not be surprised if you didn't see a few sort of explosions coming up, certainly through the end of July and into the beginning of August. He can't contain, he can't maintain. So the Chariot is telling us that he has every intentions of just moving forward, because again, he can only behave himself for a very limited period of time. And then he has to, shine in his full glory. He has to do whatever he has to do to get that attention and that adulation and that exposure. So I would not be surprised if there might be some sort of a, it's sort of one of those things that he does to just distract. All right. Now he's already got the militia people marching into Democratic states because he wants to. And of course, you understand now, right? Understand. They want that going on so they can get the film, so they can turn it into commercials. My God, apparently that Kaylee, whatever her name is, toodles off into, for God's sakes, the press room and starts showing nothing more than an absolute propaganda film about all of the violence. It was so violent and so misleading that Fox actually cut away from the event, and they wouldn't air that. So they are resorting to really ridiculous measures. Before I forget, sometimes last week on Rachel Maddow, Jay Johnson was a guest. And I believe, if I don't screw this up, I think he was head of Homeland Security, probably under Obama. But this was really interesting because she was talking to him about the troops, kind of, is it ICE? Is it, Homeland Security? Is it this? Is it that? Is it immigration? He said something really interesting. He said, it is absolutely within the government's right to protect federal buildings. Absolutely, they should be doing that. But, are you ready for this? But normally, those kinds of tasks are contracted out to independent contractors. Hello, Eric Prince. Hello, Blackwater, or whatever name he's operating under now. That is how I believe they can circumvent things and get them in there. And that is really where you see, and I'm not saying that that is really sort of, they're the ones behind the escalation of violence from what I can see and figure out. So, Trump's going to continue to move ahead. He's going to try to find some more glory, some sunshine, some good news. He's out there desperate for anything that he can crow about. And unfortunately, he is again going to be disappointed because he's been singing the same. You know what? For those of you who are old enough to remember record players, you know when a record used to skip and it would say that same like phrase over and over and over until you like knocked the needle and it carried on? That's kind of Trump, right? He just over and over and over until somebody bumps him and then he moves on to something else and then over and over and over and bump, right? Come on, that's a pretty funny visual. Okay, so he's going to continue. You know, they will corral him for a little bit and then he just goes back to the game plan that he is most comfortable with because that's what he knows. That's all he knows. And in his head, that got him the prize, right? That turned him into the most powerful person in your country. So he is going to continue with this playbook because history has told him it works. So it doesn't matter how much they're going to try to, clean up his image, soften it, try to make it look like he has a modicum of compassion or empathy, which of course he doesn't. But he is really dug in about sticking to his playbook. It worked before. And he looks at the situation and he says, you know what? Listen, you guys, you don't know everything you think you know. I won. And I'm going to do exactly what I did before because that's going to help me win. And he's not able to literally process, seriously, the seriousness of what is going on in his country. It is an unpleasant and uncomfortable situation, and he chooses simply to not deal with it. He's already tried. He can't figure out a way to make the coronavirus an enemy he can attack. And so he is just dug in. So anticipate a little bit more of that sort of behavior. Now, that's not to say that he may not have some good news along the way or, something comes up that maybe sort of looks positive. But I'm telling you, and overall, you are the incumbent and you are trailing by 10, 12, 15 points. You're not going to recover that by one good press conference or strolling around wearing a mask only when you think the cameras are recording you. And as soon as they're not, like you're in your hotel lobby, the mask comes off and he stands behind this. Well, I was standing 6 feet behind, okay? He's not going to be able to walk sort of both sides of the fence. He can't straddle it. And so when that gets uncomfortable, he is going to hop back onto the side of the fence that he knows, which is 2016. Well, this is ultimately, at the end of the week, how his week is going to look. It's going to be another one of those where it's, oh my goodness gracious, he's had a really, really bad week again. He's going to continue with his message and his narrative. And while that is going on, other people are going to continue to expose things. It's almost a full-time job, I think, just keeping track of what reporters are reporting. It doesn't stop with them. They keep on releasing stuff. And you're going to put all of that together, and it really is going to create a wall. Just not the immigration wall Trump wanted, but a blue wall that's going to block him at every turn. The states that he won narrowly, he's losing in all of them now, according to the polls. Try to remember, people, he only won the election by, 77,000, and that was the Electoral College. Okay, I know he didn't lose, or he lost the popular vote. I get it. But you're the country with the electrical college. I mean, I'm sure I've said that wrong. But you know what I'm talking about, okay? He is not the magician he believes himself to be. He is not going to pull a rabbit out of the hat this time. He's not. So if he has a day or two where it actually looks like he's not the complete jerk that we all know him to be, don't get all wigged out about it. It's going to be fine. So, more and more, he is actually behind the scenes trying to figure out his escape hatchet. And somebody did say something that was very cool. I just want to pass it along for any of you who maybe didn't catch it in my comment section. Apparently, as broad as the pardon rule or is the pardon privilege, I guess, is for the president, an impeached president cannot pardon himself. And I know there is some talk about, him, turning over the presidency to Pence for like the last couple of hours so Pence can pardon him. I actually don't think he's going to want to do that because it will be a sign of weakness. And that's not going to work so well with his ego. So again, the writing is on the wall as far as I can see in terms of his losing the election. Some of the finer details are going to unfold as we get a little bit closer. Bad week for him. Going to break his little heart. He's going to be having a problem. Oops, and here comes the World card. So I wonder if there isn't going to be more of a pushback globally. The World Health Organization said that they are now reaching, record highs on a day-to-day basis. And that is coming from North America and South America. So it boils down to the United States and Brazil are the ones literally allowing this pandemic to get out of control, to spiral and become really, really unmanageable globally. So is it a surprise that he might get some pushback? I don't think it's a surprise at all. And again, his little heart is going to be hurt and broken. This is interesting. We've got the Eight of Wands showing up. So you got to kind of wonder if things are not going to start deteriorating rather rapidly because, those who carry water for him are really carrying a heavy burden. Those who are trying to spin are really carrying a heavy burden because they're working with somebody who doesn't want to listen to anybody. But you've got some real speed of action going on here. And because it's wands, I'm really inclined to think that this is going to be a communications, information coming out, things not going well for him. I would not be surprised if there is another poll that widens that gap between Biden and Trump even more. Would not be surprised at all to see a poll or two coming out with that. So, and let's face it, once he hits 18, 20, 22, it's over. It is over. Now, there is some shady stuff going on, okay? There really is. And it's coming from across the ocean. So, so pick your country, right? Pick your leader. It's behind the scenes. It's clouded. It's obscured. But you know what? This is interesting. For as much as Americans, generally speaking, are losing sleep and worried about how much interference Russia, as an example, is going to be able to play in terms of really impacting the results of the election, he is even more worried. Trump is worried that everything he has done is not going to be enough, and Russia is not going to be able to secure that second term for him. Why? Well, because Americans are way more informed, they're more attentive, and they're more engaged than they were during the last presidential election when he was running against Clinton. It's not enough that, he lose. He has to lose by a landslide, a tsunami, a blue wave. And that is already what is being talked about on a regular basis. And so he's actually starting to get really, really concerned behind the scenes that, you know what, he actually may not be able to cheat his way into another term. Now, okay. So this is about his emotions, again, spiraling out of control because that's what he does. More and more, he's facing restrictions. He's getting bad news. He's hearing about things that do not make him happy. And along comes the tower, just to explain to him that, you know what, at some point, your life catches up with you. And it appears that this is the point where you are going to have to start actually, you're not going to face it because he doesn't know how to do that, but he's actually going to have to deal with the fact that other people are going to be very forceful about letting him know all of his shortcomings and all of his failures. Okay. For those of you, just as interesting aside, for those of you who maybe, you know, it's very easy for you to get worried or anxious. I know most of you watched the Lincoln Project. There is also another one that comes out, and that comes out again, that same little 2 or 3 minute things. It's called Republicans Against Trump, and it is people who will admit and say, I voted for him, this is why I voted for him, and I will not vote for him again. I'm supporting Biden. This is what he's done that I don't like. You know, understand there's a lot of that energy going around in the country, and he's oblivious to it. He's also going to start, thank you, he's also going to start suffering a little bit from withdrawal. He is missing the crowds. Oh, yes, he is. And when that happens, we know what happens. He does the outrageous, he says the outrageous, because he is trying to bring attention back to him. I don't see it working very well, but he's going to try. So you can anticipate the last week of July being a little bit more volatile, a little bit more busy, and definitely not a lot of good news for him, a little bit more upheaval. You know, Mary Trump and her book has really agitated him. Michael Cohen, of course, is back at home, frankly, where he belongs. And the Department of Justice sort of got slapped on their hands for that, and not only told not to do this, but not to do this again because it will not be tolerated. So there you have that. And that, of course, those restrictions, those things not going his way, create behavior from him. Behavior from him that is juvenile, childish, and a little bit rash, right? It moves forward. So yeah, that's going to be a great week this week for Trump, and probably really depressing for the rest of us. I say that facetiously, okay? Don't panic. It's not going to be a good week for him. He's going to have a hard time, and more and more and more is just going to keep on coming out. So interesting. You know, typically in the United States, they say that after Labor Day, that's when everybody gets serious about the election. That's when it kicks in. I'm telling you, people, it's already kicked in. It kicked in 3.5 years ago. It kicked in January, and boy, oh boy, did it ever kick in March, when people started to see how completely inept and ignorant he was in terms of figuring out how to deal with a pandemic that sort of, you know, most other countries in the world figured it out. And so he is losing support. There is no magic bunny that he is going to pull out of some silk hat. He doesn't have the skill. He doesn't have the people. Apparently, again, if you haven't heard this, the Jacksonville Convention was not canceled because, you know, they couldn't do it safely. It was canceled because nobody was going to attend. They were getting horrendous attendance information. And the droners were dropping out. Donors were not going to support it. This is what he is dealing with behind the scenes, okay? It is falling down on him. And just because, you know, every 72 hours he manages to get a handhold for 40 seconds, that doesn't mean he's still not going to hit that ground at some point. Okay. Joe Biden is going to be busy this week. He's going to be doing his thing and getting more exposure, and people are going to be liking what they hear. And that is going to work very, very well for him. It's going to, on the one hand, it's going to increase Biden's fortune for the better, and it simultaneously is going to decrease Trump's fortune for the worse, because he will not move off of his tough guy strategy. And it just, his behavior, it becomes so blatantly obvious that he is crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, but he is operating in a place that is no longer attached to planet Earth. He's going to think he's winning. He's going to say he's winning. People are lying to him. People are not giving him the right information because they don't want to feel his wrath. He gets so cranky and grumpy when he's told what he doesn't want to hear. People have stopped telling him. So on top of everything else, when it comes to how well he's doing, I don't even think they're being honest with him about that. They're really not. They understand the writing is on the wall here. This is going to be a really bad week for him. I'm not sure exactly what's going to unfold here, but honestly, this does not look good. Don't be surprised if there's more information coming out either about donors, about people working on his campaign, possibly even foreign actors that he has partnered with. Again, not going to be a good scene. I mean, the whole thing with that Maxwell, with wish her the best of luck, trust me, that was the beginning of this kind of nonsense where he is doing his level best to hang on to the support and the donors that he has, because he literally knows he is going down, and he is going to hang on tight to whoever he can to try to prevent that from happening. It's not going to go well. There's going to continue to be a lot of scrapping behind the scenes, I suspect, especially with the re-election campaign. But I also suspect that's also going to go on in the White House. Yeah. So there's going to be just more stuff coming out. Okay, you've got the quid pro quo card here. You've got communications. You've got the law. And then you've got him with that Four of Swords. So the Four of Swords is telling us that it's done. It's just done. He can't get out of it. He can't move away from it. He's gonna try to push forward. It's not gonna get him anywhere. You can see this is a week where, okay, so let's see if I can remember everything I said so I can try to encapsulate it here. So you've got more bad news coming out of the press. You've got more bad news coming out around his campaign. Probably really bad polling numbers, widening the gap. You have more information coming out. You have information coming out about foreign actors, about cheating, about stuff that's going on. You're going to may even see a couple more. He's going to get a really big backlash on this, what he's got going on in these cities with these troops. It's not ultimately going to work for him. And remember, he doesn't care that much. He's just trying to get video footage. That's all he's trying to do, and throw his weight around and be a bully, because, you know, it puffs up his ego to think that he can be this tough guy. But, you know, really, he's not so tough. Okay? All right. So Anticipate a bit of a bumpy week. Anticipate a week where you're going to want to be, working at least at staying informed, kind of. Don't immerse yourself in this stuff because it makes you crazy. And every time you get a little bit anxious or worried about how he's doing or how his support's doing, just picture the big broom, red, white, and blue bow, sweeping what's in the White House out to prepare for some new to come in. Okay? Until next time, take care, be well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.